Greetings, peeps of the interwebs. Jake here, and this video is just kind of regarding some of the recent news that came out of both Fox Marvel movies and DC and Warner Brothers. So first, I'm going to talk about the confirmation that Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister, is going to be the main villain in the third Wolverine film that comes out next year in March. Now, I think that's kind of an odd choice for a character like Sinister to be the main villain, just because even though Sinister is he's a pretty big villain in terms of like his powers and his intimidation factor, I guess. I mean, he's not quite on the level of Apocalypse, but he's still pretty powerful, but like he's typically always a villain of the X-Men team. And his stories usually always revolve around Scott Summers or Cyclops and Jean Grey. I mean, I'm not super familiar with the character, I will admit that. So for all I know, he could have some storylines where he's directly connected to Wolverine himself, rather than like when Wolverine's on the team. But as far as I know, they don't have any stories where those two are just like going at it head to head. So I find that really interesting, but at the same time, since this is Hugh Jackman's last movie as Wolverine and it's going to be rated R, they need kind of a character like Mr. Sinister would definitely give it that kind of darker tone, and maybe it was their whole thought process was, hey, if this is our last go with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, let's just go all out, have like a big bad villain who's, super powerful and evil, and have them duke it out in the third act to really give a satisfying send-off to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Or maybe it's, Fox not entirely knowing what they're doing, because they've had a very hit-or-miss track record with the movies, in my opinion. And like, this doesn't worry me, but I don't know, it just kind of makes me wonder why using Sinister for Wolverine instead of, like, say, having a character like that for a main X-Men movie. But at the same time, I guess, since Wolverine 3 takes place in a sort of distant future, maybe Mr. Sinister in the weird timeline of the X-Men movies caused some kind of I don't know, event, some kind of chaotic event or something like that like wiped out the X-Men, and Wolverine's one of the last remaining members of the X-Men, or mutants or something like that, and maybe they'll keep Mr. Sinister kind of in their back pocket as a villain for the next X-Men movie, which I think would be a smart move, or at least just keep him around. I think he's a popular enough character and a powerful enough character to where you could keep him on as a main X-Men villain, as maybe even a recurring villain, because that's one thing these comic book movies have really not been doing very good with, is keeping recurring villains. They show up, they're the bad guy basically just because they're the bad guy. There isn't a whole lot of development or reasons as to why they're the bad guy, and then they basically get killed off, in the third act. And I get that, it's obviously a superhero movie, so they have to focus on the superheroes, but I would still like some more, a bit more development with the villains, so that way they're not just these one-and-done, cardboard cutout, one-dimensional characters. But, I don't know, I guess those are my brief thoughts on Mr. Sinister being confirmed as a villain in Wolverine 3. And then moving on is Greg Berlanti, the guy who's basically the head honcho of the CW DC universe, Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, all that, is basically saying that he's working on a Booster Gold movie. And apparently he was working on a Booster Gold TV show, but I guess for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe that fell through, and so now he's going to try and adapt it into a movie. Now, that's kind of cool, because Booster Gold would definitely be a more lighthearted, humorous character to add into the DCU, which is something that I think they are in need of. However, the only thing is, as of right now, he says that this movie probably will not even be connected to the DCEU. So it'll have no connection to Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and any future DC movies. It'll be a standalone movie, which I think is kind of dumb. because if you're familiar with Booster Gold, basically he's from the future, and he gets all this. He gets equipment. He like breaks into a museum that's dedicated to like superheroes, and then he time travels to the past. To I guess the current time period in DC, or in the DC comics, and basically pretends to be a superhero because of his knowledge of the future and all that stuff. And he's also kind of directly connected to the main continuity. So it's kind of like, why would you want to make a movie that's not even connected to the DCEU? Because first off, that's just going to be confusing. Because let's say they make this movie, a lot of people are going to be expecting it to somehow tie in with the other DC movies, like Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, and Justice League, Wonder Woman, all that. But if it doesn't, then it's just going to be kind of confusing. And also, the whole point of creating all these characters on screen is to have a connected universe. I don't know, it just seems kind of odd to me. But also, I think right now, like, as cool as it is that, they're considering taking a risk, and, man, I really need to learn to turn my phone off every time. As cool as it is that I think they're willing to take a risk on a character like Booster Gold, who's a very lesser-known character to mainstream audiences and even some comic readers, I think they need to hold off on that. Because DC really... They can't really afford to take any risks right now with all the mixed reception from Man of Steel, Batman v Superman in particular, and Suicide Squad. They need home run hits with their movies. Like, Wonder Woman needs to be just a complete critical and financial success. Same with Justice League. That needs to be a total critical and financial success. Because if all these movies that keep coming out with Warner Brothers and DC keep getting these mixed reviews, the interest is going to go down on people wanting to go see these movies. And that in turn affects all these other superhero movies, like the Fox X-Men movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And so they, for the sake of not just Warner Brothers and DC, but the sake of all these superhero movies, they need to step up their game and just deliver at least like 3 to 5. And this is just my opinion. I mean, even if they release, even if Wonder Woman is just solid, that will repair some of the problems that have been caused with some of the other movies. But in my opinion, they need at least 3 hits, just one after another, so that way people will start to kind of have a bit more faith that DC know what they're doing and that they can deliver good quality movies. So that's just my opinion. They need to deliver at least 3 or more solid movies before they can start taking risks on movies like Booster Gold or whoever else they want to do. Because the way Marvel did it is something like Guardians of the Galaxy. That movie honestly shouldn't have worked because no one had really even heard of them. Even more comic book savvy people had heard the name of Guardians of the Galaxy maybe, but they weren't that familiar with the characters themselves. And so... But, I mean, and also, two of your lead characters, one was an anthropomorphic raccoon that has a fascination with guns, and the other is a talking tree. And somehow Marvel were able to pull it off to where we fell in love with those characters. And so, Marvel had at least earned that, to where even if that movie had, just bombed in the box office, they made enough money in their repertoire of films to where, yeah, it would have sucked, but it would have been a huge loss. And also the main point of the Guardians of the Galaxy movie was to introduce the audience to the cosmic realm of the Marvel Universe, which they did pretty well. But again, at least by that point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's phase, they had earned the right to take a risk like that, or even Ant-Man. Whereas DC right now, again, I love DC so much, and I want them to succeed. I want them to legitimately compete with Marvel. But they just got to start stepping it up with their movies. And again, start delivering hit after hit before they can start developing these other lesser-known properties like Booster Gold. Regardless of whether he's connected to the movie universe or not, he should be. But whatever, again, they just need to make better movies. But again, this is all just my opinion. Feel free to agree or disagree. But that wraps up this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out here at the channel, and let me know what you all think in the comments below. Mr. Sinister being cast in Wolverine 3, or not being cast, but being confirmed as the villain. What do you think about the Booster Gold movie and the possibility of that happening? And you can follow me on Twitter at IrishmanJake, all one word. You can follow the Pace of Hell Productions Twitter page at Pace of Hell Pro, or you can like us on Facebook at Pace of Hell Productions, where you can get updates on the newest videos, what they're going to be about, when they're going to be uploaded, and all that stuff. So that wraps up this video, and until next time, everyone, cheers.